This is our investment policy statement. I'm Will Harless, and this is Bella Roy. We chose to do the case with Margaret Miner and James John. Margaret Miner and James John have opened an investment account to provide a cash store for retirement. Margaret owns a jewelry business, and James is a firefighter. They each have one child, both of whom are interested in higher education.
As for the return objectives, with initially investing $1 million, followed by $250,000 to $500,000 per year across various sectors, they should be able to meet any long-term financial objectives and maintain the couple's current lifestyle and cover living expenses into retirement, while also ensuring their children are provided for.
As for the risk tolerance, they're broken down into the ability and willingness of the couple. As for the ability, their total current liquid assets are around $5 million, with annual expenses of $572,000. They currently have brokerage account investments of $4.2 million. Their annual combined income is $560,000 to $800,000. With this information, we can allocate $250,000 to $500,000 of their annual revenue, along with initial $1 million towards investment. The amount we invest depends on distributions Margaret receives from her business. As for the willingness, the couple seems like they would be fairly inclined to accept a moderate amount of risk, especially since we are considering annual income and other factors. They have an annual expense of $572,000, which can be taken care of using any revenue earned from the jewelry business.
Okay, and as for their constraints, Margaret has varying income with more than half of her revenue coming from disbursements, which range from $200,000 to $450,000, in addition to her $200,000 salary and her husband's $70,000 salary. With earning the minimum disbursements of $200,000, they will be unable to cover their expenses with revenue alone and will have to eat into their cash storage. James has a fairly small amount of debt, equaling around $10,000 plus any interest incurred. They also plan to invest in their children's education with two separate accounts for college expenditures.
As for their time horizon, Margaret plans to retire in 14 years along with her husband, in which case the business and cash flows will be inherited by their children. At this point, their expenses would decrease by $45,000 because they would no longer be required to invest in their children's investment accounts. Once in retirement, the investments made up until that point should be enough to provide them with their usual way of life prior to them entering retirement.
So for legal and regulatory environment, many of the legal proceedings relating to the couple's circumstances relate towards their prenuptial agreement that they have in place. Their prenuptial agreement states that if they were to divorce, James would receive $1,000 a month for every year they were married, up until $10,000. In the case of a death of Margaret, her estate holding would go to her children, and James would be compensated if they were still married.
As for their unique circumstances, Margaret is the primary source of income in the household. As for their children, Molly and Maverick, uh, they're either in college or newly graduated. Molly is working at a marketing firm and is interested in the jewelry business, but not sure if she wants to manage it for the rest of her life. Maverick has dropped out of college and does not have a steady source of employment. Maverick also has a 2-year-old child, Maddie, who has been diagnosed with autism. Margaret plans on supporting Maddie, but does not know how much support she will need later in life. James's retirement pension is in jeopardy of being forfeit.
And as for the closing statement, by allocating a portion of the couple's liquid resources now in the form of $1 million investment, followed by an annual investments of $250,000 to $500,000, they should have more than enough assets to maintain their current lifestyle throughout retirement. They have a few expenses related to their children's well-being that will be retained until retirement, where the business will then be handed over to Margaret's daughter if she chooses so. Because Margaret is responsible for the majority of the income, she will retain all of her investments other than a monthly payment to James of up to $10,000 in the case they were divorced.